Hi, welcome to Spoken World Online. Tonight we're featuring John F. McMullen, John Mack the Bard. He's the poet laureate of the town of Yorktown, New York, an adjunct professor at Westchester Community College, a graduate of Iona College, and the holder of 2 master's degrees from Marist College, a member of the Academy of American Poets and Poets and Writers. He's the author of over 2,500 columns and articles and 10 books, 8 of them poetry, and the host of a weekly internet radio show, 300 shows to date. Soon the host of a new open mic for Scars.tv. I'd like to welcome Sean F. McMullen.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for all these folks being here who aren't normally. I'm going to read a poem to start off. Just unlike many of my poems, which normally deal with either politics or basketball or racism. But this is in the current edition of Fallow Ground. It's a publication of prolific press in Indiana. And I've been very lucky to have publishers like Janet, like Glig Lifers at a prolific press, and James Paul Wagner of local Gems Press out on Long Island, who's published my most recent chapbook and a number of anthologies that I'm in. So, tears. When we're young, we cry easily when we fall, when we cut ourselves, and when we don't get what we want. As we got older, the Four Seasons taught us big girls don't cry, and definitely not big boys. It mattered not that Johnny Ray had told us to let your hair down and go on and cry. We knew that wasn't adult. We may cry at the death of a relative or a friend, or a tragedy like 9/11, but that was very occasional. We even have tears of joy, which we rapidly wipe away. The reason I read that, as I said, it's my most recent. I'm going to go into a history during this time of what I've been writing over the years and how I got into it, because I was an English major in college, but very, very luckily, I got into technology, and I had a career as a computer person and an executive and as a consultant, and not only didn't I write a poem for 35 years, I didn't read one. I had no interest in poetry. And I was coming out of the men's room in Barnes and Noble. I happened to walk down the aisle, and there was a book there with a very strange title. I just picked it up on an impulse. I opened it, and it was by Charles Bukowski, who was a misogynist, an alcoholic, and brilliant. And I said, this guy's crazy. If he can do this, so can I. And I wrote one poem. I showed it to a person, and she said, you ought to do something with it. I didn't know what to do with it, so I knew anything with it. Then I showed it to another person. So he said, you ought to enter it in this contest. And I said, why would I do that? He said, just send it off. Then he called me and he told me 3 months later that, like David just did, it finished third prize in a national contest. At that time, it was quite different. The prize was $25, and publishing in Poets and Writers, and a subscription to Poets and Writers and online. That was cashing the check. But between Bukowski and this contest that grabbed me by the neck, there's been thousands of poems since, and many books that I'll wave at you in a minute. Cashing a check. I saw this wonderful line in a column in a motorcycle magazine. The mind writes checks that the body can't cash. The vision that many from the old neighborhood have of me is short and thin, with the Pepsi in one hand and the cigarette in the other. Others will remember me as tall and thin, hitting a jump from the corner or throwing a no-look pass to a cutter. Others will picture me at the end of the bar in the Broadstone with an open pack of Pall Malls and the half-finished beer in a bar. Don Gibson's I Can't Stop Loving You on the jukebox. Pat, one more and you have a chance. AIDS has taken the jumper. Diabetes has taken a Pepsi. Common sense has taken the cigarette and booze. I'm older and wiser and hopefully more tolerant. I am satisfied with my life, but to just be able once more to fake the man guarding me and go up with a jumper and get nothing but net, to be able once more to cash that check. So, and since then, this was the first book. Then this is a book of 110 poems, new and collected poems. The most recent book is a full-length book is Live at the Freight House, that came from the first time I was ever the featured poet to what was done there, and then I got the book out of it. The one that people might hate to see, and I'll only read one poem from it, is the Trump file. That are all the poems of how much I hate Donald Trump. And then finally, the chat book that I mentioned from Local Gem Press about I was a World War II baby. So we'll go right on. From the same book, and I've got all these various page numbers. The Christian Corporation. To start off, was founded by a young Galilean with the idea of saving men's souls. Every startup needs a goal. He recruited the best freelancers available, a dedicated bunch, much like the ones at Apple, Microsoft, and Google. The venture stumbled a bit when one of the key players, Judas, went over to the other side. But the resurrection became the iPod of the day, and the venture was back on track. As the enterprise grew, there was resentment, envy, and even hatred from the existing establishment, much of which was felt at Apple, Microsoft, and Google. As the enterprise grew further, though, it was necessary to bring in venture capital and then go public. Eventually, new management arrived, the stock split, and the mystics, itinerant preachers, hermits, and martyrs became minority stockholders, very minority. Has anyone noticed that Apple only got back on track when the founder was brought back? Anyone know where that Galilean can be found? And one more that has something to do with religion, a deal shorter. Faith. It is earlier to believe in a concerned God when motor scooting down Taconic over the Croton Reservoir on a spring day. At 60, with the wind in your face under the blue sky, I am sure that God is in his heaven, and I whisper, thank you. It's not as easy on a rainy, cold day. And then we have The Old Neighborhood, if I can find a poem. The Bars. I grew up in an Irish Catholic neighborhood. The Jewish lads went to school and studied. The Irish went to the bars. To be sure, many of us also went to school and played sports and went out with girls. No sex, though. But we went to the bars underage, after games, after dates, and after softball games, before and after dances to watch the Sunday football game, and for every other damn reason. The Broadstone, the Willow Tree, Aaron's Isle, Chambers, McSherry's, Inwood Lounge, Doc Fiddler's, Cassidy's, Jimmy Ryan's, Keenan's Corner. Where'd you get the idea? We all knew the bartenders by name. George Lynch, Pat Gallagher, Sunshine, and they all bought back. The next one's on me, Mac, and you never leave after a buyback. We hung out there, we talked, we laughed, we sometimes fought, and we drank. But we just didn't drink in the bars. We drank in the park, we drank at parties, we drank at football games, we drank at dances from a hidden flask. Many slowed down as they grew up. Many stopped altogether, and some were stopped only by the grave. The drink was the macho factor. If you told the fellow he had diabetes, he'd stop taking sugar. If you told some of my friends that they shouldn't drink, they'd say, "What do you mean I can hold my liquor?" They planned to drink until they died, and they did. I still think we had more fun than the Jewish guys, unless they were getting laid. From me and Bob, from this book, and I start getting into writing with things like this. Me and Bobby McGee. I've been writing for over 25 years, news stories, articles, opinion columns, academic papers, encyclopedia entries, anthology pieces, a technology book, 4 collections of poetry, that was a long time ago, over 1,500 news stories, articles, and columns and all, in addition to the book. My writing has appeared in the Chicago Tribune, Computer Shopper, National Review, PC Magazine, Western Business Journal, Popular Electronics, and numerous publications no longer with us. I've written about important things: computer crime, government surveillance, outsourcing, education, technology innovation, cyberspace competition. More people have heard me and Bobby McGee than have read all of my work in total. Well, it's a very good song. And now we go to live at the Freight House. Page 89. Backup. My books are on my Kindle. My addresses are on my phone. My calendar is in Google, and Gmail has my mail. My writing is on my pen drive. My pictures are on the net. My music is in the iPod, and my thoughts are on the web. All these are backed up. I am not. When my power goes out, I do too. That's the Vincent Bell poem. Page 17. I'll get there. Your reality. Reading Billy Collins or Bukowski or Sharon Olds, it's like watching Ted Williams hit, or Steve Jobs sell a concept, or Larry Bird see the court, or Stephen Hawking think. I've aspired to all these skills and try my best, but and this was one of the first poems that I had published in Down in the Dirt, called Submission. Dear editor, enclosed are a few poems which I sincerely hope that you will choose to publish in your fine journal. In the event that you choose not to do so, I hope that your rag goes up in flames, all the subscribers die, and that you and your staff rot in hell. Respectfully submitted, John Mack the Bard. I mentioned basketball. I was a basketball whore. I played in the park. I played CYO ball. I played for an Episcopal church. I played in the league at the Jewish Y. I played intramural ball in college. I was a real gym rat, going to playing between classes, and often when I should have been in class. I went down to college. I really majored in basketball and Beachmont. The Beachmont is the bar across the street from the college. Hey, I'm from Inwood. I grew up small, only grew late in college. I was a good ball player for a while, then a pretty good player, then a good player again, and finally an okay player when I stopped in my mid-50s. I played in leagues on Wall Street. I played in open leagues around Manhattan in the Bronx. I played in leagues in Westchester and pick up for 2 hours most Sunday mornings. Now I have regular cortisone shots in my hips and knees. I've had minor surgery in both knees and jelly pumped into them. No cartridge in my knees or ankles. Arthritis all through my back, hips, knees, and ankles. And my right ankle brings a limp and constant pain. If the most recent shot in 24/7 brace doesn't work, then this fusion or replacement, not a happy scenario. My orthopedist and old player himself said it's all from basketball. If I had known then, back in my basketball days, what I know now, I wouldn't have changed a fucking thing. And then I do get into two political poems in this book. The top of my hill, now this was written years ago. The top of my hill in Mahopac, New York, is home to a supposed state park. Supposed? Yes, supposed. There are no trees in a state park, no nature trails, no picnic tables, no swimming pools, no hiking fields, no athletic fields, no basketball courts. The only path into the park is chained to keep out the curious and the misinformed to think that there is a park. It's been this way for years. There is nothing there but overgrown weeds, big signs on a highway, treat as real. Driving by, you might be misled, but not the locals to know the truth. This empty, barren travesty of a state park bears the name of a White House occupant. Do we see a parallel here? It's to Donald Trump's state park. This was written a day or two after Charlottesville. If you walk with a Nazi, the President of the United States said there were some good people protesting in Charlottesville. Not for the first time, he was dead wrong. Good people may have showed up to protest, but as soon as they stepped into the street to march with people waving Nazi flags, they were no longer good people. The Nazis killed 8 million homosexuals, gypsies, communists, and Christians. Then, of course, 8 million Jews in the final solution. Over 400,000 Americans died in World War II fighting Japanese imperialism and the murderous Nazi philosophy. We saved the world. Those who march under the Nazi flag dishonor the greatest generation. And unfortunately, so does the President of the United States. I'll read one poem from the only poem that I'll read, and the only one sentence poem that I have probably ever written. It happened a few years ago during court cases. Stormy fucked him once, now she's doing it again. David, how much time do I have?
You've been on for about 18 minutes.
How long?
But yeah, go on if you want to close out this round. And
I'll just read one more then from the from here, from right now. Why I write. I wrote prose to help others understand what I understand. The rig of writing the prose also helps me understand the subjects better. Poetry is very different. I write poetry to help me understand myself, my feelings, my relations with the world and with people. I hope you like the poetry that I write, but if you don't, I really don't care. Thank you very much for putting up with me, and I'll be back in round 2.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, John F. McMullen, featuring at Spoken World Online, and we'll be back.